Okay, so this time around I have a old school subwoofer from Kicker. This one's the first version of the XPL, and um, they're it's interesting because it says here it's a 10-inch XPL high output subwoofer. The later XPLs are known to handle quite a bit of power, um, but these ones they don't handle a lot of power, but they are super efficient, which is the reason that a lot of people just recently somebody had mentioned that they love these things and they just sounded awesome. And the reason they sound awesome is because it's a extremely efficient transducer. Anytime a speaker, the higher to me, the higher the efficiency, the better the sound is going to be. That's just what I've found to be true in home audio. It's what I found to be true in car audio. There's trade-offs with anything. Generally, the more efficient something is, you have to use lighter parts, and with lighter parts, things are sacrificed, like rigidity of the cone or the ability to dissipate heat in a voice coil. So there's trade-offs. That's why you'll generally see a sub that handles like several hundred watts or north of 1,000 or 2,000. The further up you go, the worse the efficiency is, and that's just measured in you know you put 1 watt to it, how much is how much sound's coming back, what dB. It's not like exactly like, so if something has a rating of 90 dB and you put 1 watt to it, that you're going to measure exactly 90 dB. A lot of factors come into play: enclosure, what room or vehicle you're playing it in. So it's not, that's not. I don't really know exactly how they come about getting those numbers. I have to look more into that, but there's a lot of factors. So that number's just generally is an idea of how efficient that driver is. Um, these subs, the cone is super light, and generally when a cone's light, it doesn't have a lot of structural rigidity to it. But in this model, what they did was they went to a ribbed cone to increase the rigidity of the lighter material. The other example I've seen of this is Sarah Vega did this, and I have a pair of the AT10s, and they're very similar, except for they're a paper pulp, where this is a polycomb. So uh, let's crack it open, take a look at this guy, and they are really nice subs. I hooked this up, a pair of these to a Orion 225, and my goal was to use them not really as a mid bass, but like a little bit below mid bass, um, but like above where I was crossing the 18s, the 18W6s at. So kind of to like bridge the gap between my 6.5s and the 18s, because there's a bit of a gap there. They are sweet sounding. When I would turn the 18s off and just use these, they're amazing sounding drivers. I wasn't really, I don't know, and it could be due to my enclosure. I built the enclosure for JL Audio 10W6s, and then just place these in that enclosure. It's not far off of like, because this is I believe that, yeah, these on the manual, these ask for the 10 1 cubic foot, and they want plus or minus 10% on that, and so it's like zero point 0.9 would be low end. And I believe the 10W6, I made them to spec, and I think that's 0.88, but I'm not for sure. I can't remember it. I built that a couple years ago. Um, but they sounded really good in that, but I wasn't getting a whole bunch of output. It was a sealed enclosure. I almost always go with sealed enclosure. One, super easy to do, um, and two, it I listen to a variety of genres of music, so sealed to me works better for that purpose, because you're not really just dialed into a very specific hertz range. So you can go with like, rock with a kick drum, or go with like a low hertz bass track, and it'll sound good with either one. Um, Pull this out. And so you can see the ribbed cone. And they got the kicker, hopefully you can focus here, the stitch surround. And the foam on these is in gorgeous condition. The Rubitex gasket is I mean, this is a brand new sub. I ran these for maybe 2 weeks. And then I found I just wasn't hearing them enough to really make it worthwhile to have an extra amp and running these. I figured I'd just keep them nice and new. But yeah, here's what the back of one of these looks like. And they don't have like a designation like X10A or B or C. I think maybe the later ones were, maybe it was an X10C. I think what they did is they just followed what iteration of the current comp was. So if they were out at the same time as the C10C, it would be the X10C. And then there was the X10D. And you can tell them distinctly apart because Kicker went from a design of having a dust cap to having no dust cap. And the no dust cap would be the later version, the D. I think the baskets were the same, but the baskets were much different than this. They kind of, I think they might have been cast, where this is a stamped basket. The spider to me looks like a comp spider. You can see it's a 2-inch voice coil. It's got the, looks just like a comp kind of boot on it. I don't have a 10-inch comp, otherwise I'd kind of do a side by side to kind of do a comparison, but the spider on this looks sagged. It's definitely not from running it. I think it's just from being stored in a box sitting up, probably. It's not horrible. It's not warped. So I don't think it affects its functionality or sound quality in a great deal. But and it's got, of course, the spade terminals, which isn't. That's not uncommon from this time period. I mean, they definitely had subs with push terminals, but this was. I don't know if this was cheaper than the a Kicker comp, but I mean, I don't know. It's definitely different. It sounds different. I don't know what the goal was from Kicker, because it's like, they have a high output, which the later ones were. Those were made for it's like an SPL version of the comp. This is not an SPL version of a comp. This is just a more efficient version of a Kicker competition. But anyway, so that's the Kicker XPL 10. Yeah, really, really good sounding sub. So if you're into sound quality and you don't want to use a large amplifier, like maybe you want to run, I mean, I guess it's kind of sacrilege to run a Fosgate with Kicker, but if you wanted to run like a Punch 45 or something, I think it would power these perfect. I think that would be a good pairing, or maybe any of the, I think a Kicker period amp would probably be the SS series. I think like a SS 80 or what I believe was SS 80. I know they had the 40, but something small like that I think would be really, really good with these subs, because they do not need a lot of power to drive them, and they sound really, really good. Well, that's all.